March 20th, the first day of spring. Show number 109. Actually, show 110. Either way, welcome to another edition of Sultry Radio in the Raw. I'm your host, Michael Lewis Ingram, still coughing up hairballs as we speak. But as always, Sultry Radio in the Raw, sponsored by the Black Athlete Sports Network, Roland Rogers, CEO in loving memory, our colleagues at Sports Talk, 1450 AM, the soul of Richmond, Virginia. Good bunch of guys down there, and some disgusting cowboy fan named Reggie, but I digress. And also our friends at WUFO, 1080 The Mix, located up in Buffalo, New York. Pat Freeman, the mighty Oba, his tribe increased. Sports editor up there, and our friends at Guardian Caps, Lee and Aaron Hansen. Pardon me, Mike Feely as well. I'll be glad when this weather climatizes. My sinuses have been in chaos for the last 4 months, so I apologize, everybody. And, of course, yourselves. A rather ambitious menu tonight, so we're going to jump right in it with me. Riding the range, Cowboy Reggie. What's going on, Cowboy?
Well, tell the people in Philadelphia, young black men, to stop wearing black jeans and black hoodies, as a European woman a couple of weeks ago tried to disguise herself and got caught.
Whoa, now you'll have to dabble a little more. Tell us more. Don't sit there and just tease us now.
Well, it was a situation in Philly. It was on Yahoo. And also a dear friend of mine, Gigi Golden Girl, who used to be on the airways there years ago. I think she's back in town. And she posted on her Facebook page that it was a European woman that disguised herself as being a black male that had on a black hoodie and black jeans. It seems now that seems to be the new pop-off when it comes to racial, should we say, stereotypes. So I'm saying to the young black men in Philly, please stop wearing black hoodies and also black jeans. That's on my girl Gigi Golden Girl Facebook page.
Intriguing. You know, as they say, the plot thickens. Also with me riding shotgun, as always, Mr. Biggs himself, Gary Gray, just wrote a great piece on Hampton's Lady Pirates and the fact they got jerked in the NCAA women's draw. What's up, G?
What's up, man? I'm going to give us a minute. I'm going to give us some notes about my lady Pirates and Hampton. I hope they beat the blood out of Duke tomorrow night.
We can only hope. And, of course, with us, the professor himself, Fred Whitted. What's up, Prof?
Good evening to all. Hope you all are having good weather up there. How's things going on the left coast, Gary?
So good, brother.
The book is on the wings.
All right, gentlemen and ladies, when the ladies chime in, a lot of stuff on the plate tonight on Turntable One. Blaming the victim, the aftermath of the Steubenville Rape case leads to revulsion and anger with the callous manner in which CNN and Fox portrayed the victim. On Turntable Two, insanity in India. A woman literally jumps out of a hotel room, upstairs hotel room I should add, to avoid being accosted sexually by the hotel manager who offers her a free massage. And on Turntable 3, a remix on side A, Cardinal Sins. The idiot cardinal who says pedophilia isn't a crime tells you more about the mindset within the Catholic Church than anything. And on side B, who is Ray Grykar and why aren't they finding out what happened to him? But as we'll start with our downloads, because the NCAA is in effect and the NFL, some rule changes at the NFL meetings came to mind that was interesting. But I want to go back to Gary's point first. Gary wrote an excellent piece for a black athlete entitled Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire, referring to the Lady Pirates of Hampton University and the fact that they were told, essentially, if you play a bigger and tougher schedule, then you'll get a better seat at the tournament table. Well, for their rewards, they were given a 15 seed, Gary. And since you wrote the piece, break it down for us.
Okay. the Hampton Lady Pirates have won the MEAC 4 years in a row. For you people who know MEAC, it's the Mid-East Athletic Conference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these women, year after year, get better and better and better. Now, what the NCAA said 2.5 years ago, they told all the HBCUs, if you play outside your conference, if you win 20 games or more, and if you win your tournament and conference, you would get out of seat. Well, Hampton scheduled 5, 6 people outside their conference,
Mm-hmm.
4 ranked teams, and won 19 games in a row. They won the conference, and they won the tournament last week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reward for doing all this work is a 15th seed. Now, if I'm an HBCU, you know what I'm saying? I'm leaving the NCAA.
Well, Professor, this leads to a conversation we've likely had before here, but to Gary's point, you know, the Lady Pirates went 28-5. Not bad, I might add. And they must have whipped a whole lot of hiney outside of their conference as well as inside to get to the dance because they had to win their own conference championship as well. So to Gary's point in the article, they did everything that was asked of them, and it looks like they still got, as they said in the Lethal Weapon series, screwed at the drive-through.
It sure did.
Oh, you coming to me on that?
Oh, yeah.
That's a nice diplomatic way to put all that. First and foremost, the NCAA is historically been the biggest piece of crap there is.
No doubt.
It's probably the greatest vestige of slavery that still exists, short of sweatshops in some of these small countries around the world. But, you know, to the credit of Hampton, I always say it this way: I've never necessarily liked their president, but I like his results. And he, you know, Coach Six has been there 4 years. He's won from year one, and this year you can't even say he won with the other coaches' players because this is year 4. He's winning with the girls. His seniors this year was the girls that he recruited.
Right.
And having said that, looking at where they're seated, and I know it's either 15 or 16, that's just the black place. And, you know, I gave up listening to what the NCAA has to say years ago. Because when they go in the room, and if you listen, you know, even before you get to that, listen to the rhetoric of the announcers, the talking heads, the last couple of Sundays about who was going where. Exactly. Now, they have yet to explain, you know, and I personally like Duke more than Carolina for a number of reasons. But think about it. Duke was supposed to be hands down. They're only if they stumbled into a game with the Miami, they may lose. But they were pre-told that they were going to win the ACC tournament. Right. Fell flat on their face, but they get a high because they're Duke. Well, black schools get low because they're black.
That's right.
Plain, that simple. And anything they may have been told about the better conference record and all that kind of, better play better schedule outside their conference. That's nonsense because it still goes back to you playing niggas in your conference, which is really what it boils down to. And because of that, Hampton traditionally is a school that does it right. Their girls are graduating in 4 years. Their girls are on honor roll. Their girls are coming in, graduating in 4 years, and are still good athlete, good character that works. So you don't hear stuff about Hampton and then a lot of other HBCUs like you hear about some of these other schools. But
Exactly.
it's I didn't get a chance to read Gary's piece, but I can tell you, I hope he said it was a bunch of crap because that's what it is. NCAA.
Oh, he did.
And the selection committee and all those other things. Listen, all they want out of this is for schools who are either big name or big schools with the average PWC, as we call them, the average PWC that makes it down to the Sweet 16 got 25,000, 30,000 students.
Thank you.
That's right.
Duke is one of the rare ones, but see, Duke has an established name, and it's in the ACC, which will draw a few fans. But Miami, you don't watch it. Miami's gonna get screwed too because they're a football school. 1 and 2. Most people don't realize University of Miami, and this is the men. The University of Miami is not that big compared to some of the other schools in the ACC. It's just rich.
That's true.
But it's not like UNC with 27,000, NC State 27,000. And this is who makes it down range. Again, Stanford and UConn, and I know Stanford, UConn, and the other two schools that were the number 1 seeds. They're going to find a way to make them or somebody like them number 1.
Exactly.
It's nothing new. They even do this at the Division II level. Fayetteville State had a 24-5 record and did not make to the into the regionals.
Yes.
Why? Because and it was almost this. A couple, looking at who a couple of the schools lost to, it's almost like they threw the game because they knew they were going to make it in, and then because these other schools won their conference and Fayetteville State didn't. Well, you end up with a team that's the one in the teens record going into the regionals, and this is at the Division II level. Yep. So we're still talking about this, the same organization stirring the pot, and unfortunately, our schools and our young ladies and young men get screwed in the process. Who'd have thought that A&T was going to win last night?
That's right. They sure tried to beat them.
And because because at HBCU we put down our normal venom towards them because they're Aggies and we're Rams. But hey, I always cheer for the HBCUs with this time of year. I was so happy for Norfolk, and we really hate Norfolk.
Michael, what did it go down to? Reggie out, the government Reggie said years ago. It's about the money.
It is about the money.
Talking about.
Yeah, it is about the money.
10 years ago, my school, SIU, mid-major, right?
Yep.
The mid-major was complaining so much. They said, you don't change this, we're going to move. Well, guess what? The NCAA changed. And now, this year, for the first time, they're almost an equal number of mid-majors. That tells you what kind of power they got.
No, it's a big problem, Gary, and Bobby Booker is trying to get in as well as Cowboy Reggie. Guys, Bobby, check your Skype line. Cowboy, bump back in when you get a chance. But as we talk about this, there's some actual synchronicity to all of this. It's highly ironic, Cowboy, that the Hampton women are getting a 15 seed. Let's not forget that it was the Hampton men as a 15 seed that pulled off one of the greatest upsets in NCAA college history. So I'm hoping that the Lady Pirates are looking to gain some booty themselves and snag a first-round upset in playing their number 2.
No, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But see, what really angers me, that Norfolk State played University of Virginia. Norfolk State won the regular season, and they had to go on the road to John Paul Arena. Why? Because Norfolk State sold cap strap that was more butts in the seats at John Paul Arena, and I guess they showed them a gate. But what does that say when you won your regular season conference and you play against a team that was like 5 or 6 in the ACC, and you make them go and host the team? Because economics.
It is about money. And to Gary's point in his article, and again, it's on blackathlete.com. Please check it out. It is called Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire. The Hampton women were also told, or rather the Hampton administration was told by the NCAA, they had to play at least 30 games. So you're told this is what you need to do to get you a little bit of money. And when I say it's a little bit of money, because it's a women's program, you better believe, in comparison to the men's program, it is a little bit of money. So you're going to get thrown this little bit. If there's any consolation, at least they didn't get a 16 and they have to face Baylor, or one of the baddest female cats in the walk in the tournament. But the bottom line in all this comes back to what Gary said, and that is, when are the 4 HBCU conferences going to stop the BS and form their own thing? Because clearly they're not getting no love from the NCAA. And as we've seen from bigger schools in the BCS, they have already shown the NCAA that they really don't need them. So with pooled money, as we used to say back in the day, you can make chicken salad out of chicken lips. So why isn't the SEAC, MEAC, SWAC, and everybody else going to try to do the same thing?
Because of the president.
Lack of guts.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation a time or two before.
Mm-hmm.
And when Winston started their move up, one of the things I started looking at, what's the difference here? What are they doing that we're not doing? And all these kinds of things.
Yep.
And it's something, some certain things you look at. I look at the endowments of the various schools and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Okay, when you look at the endowments, top 5, Howard, Spelman, which doesn't have athletics anymore.
Yep.
Morehouse,
mm-hmm.
Howard Hampton, Morehouse,
mm-hmm.
Spelman, and I think it was Tuskegee or somebody like that. Either
it was
Tuskegee's
up there. I know that they always have been.
Because this was this was what you look at. After that, it's almost endowments are or they say a pittance, is a pitiful, and and I looked at something, but then over beyond that, I looked at these beatdown games.
Yeah.
Okay. To make, I think Delaware State got one of the biggest payoffs, and that was like
$500,000. I remember that.
$500,000.
They forfeited the game in conference.
Okay, that's what $500,000. So you need to get how many butts in the seat to make $500,000?
Mm-hmm.
And then they look at in our schools have messed up in a lot of ways. Traditionally, we haven't built capacity, and then we won't pay for capacity.
Yeah.
And you got to market. You got to tell all that you build it, they will come. Okay, Eddie Robinson, if you read his book, he tells you that ain't how it works. You build it, but then you got to go get them.
Yep.
Our schools don't do that. We got ADs as a rule who I'm still trying to figure out what their job is, because it's not marketing, because they don't do that. You have a person who is a market person, they don't allow them to do their job. As you go down the list of things, what's wrong, every week there's 20 classics? Yep. Come on. Now, if you don't have to have a classic, why do you need a classic for Southern and Grammy? All you need to do is show. Remember that movie? I think it was Clint Eastwood movie. They were fighting, and you just tell them where you're gonna be, and they show up. Now you got that with those schools, and you got and I'm glad for A&T, but I'm gonna jump on their behind in North Carolina Central right now too, because it's the biggest piece of stupidity in the world. And Winston is Division II.
Right.
We won't play them. Let's look at money.
Mm-hmm.
You got a 20-something thousand seat stadium. You got, and when Winston shows up, you got as much red as you got blue and gold. Why are you not playing them?
And filling up the place. Mm-hmm.
If you bring in 10,000 to Rams, and that's what, $25. So that's what, $250,000. Come on.
But parking and everything else, there's your $500,000.
Thank you. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But see, you don't let AD do the math. Matter of fact, first of all, we got to get away from having PE teachers as athletic directors.
Yeah.
You need businessmen. You need businesswomen. You need people who are businessmen. Because, see, our schools have not gotten the full message that, okay, this is sports entertainment business, not the sports entertainment. The biggest thing most people want to do is have a place for the chancellor or the president to invite his friends on a Saturday so they can watch football and eat some weenies and chicken
and talk
wings.
stuff. Yep, that's right.
You know, and see, that's the sad thing. Our kids are suffering.
Well, you know what, Fred? Fred, I want to go. I think where you're going to go, because in the midst of all of this, when you talk about, and Reggie talked about the presidents being stupid or just whatever, I think there's another element of this that we haven't talked about as much, and that's the fact that a lot of these presidents turn a blind eye to sports. And I don't even think it's about marking as much as some of them are annoyed that sports is part of what makes that school, because they want to be intellectuals. They want to go in
Quit talking about my chancellor, please.
Oh, see, I wasn't trying to point no fingers.
Lay off Dr. WB's, and see, he has somewhat turned the corner, because now that he sees what he has finally gotten around, comfortable around black folks, he can actually look at it. And he's trying to be a coach now. He's like the way our coaches coach and this, that, and other. And I can remember when he came in, his first rule was to stop the move up. He hasn't raised any money in 5 years, but, he stopped the move from Division 2 to Division 1 and brought us back to the CIAA, which is cool on one hand, but, I look at how much money, and I meant to look it up, how much money will A&T get for the play-in game and now going to the second level? Because, see, you broke up a pretty decent amount of money for these games. And even as you spread it around, and this is what's really dilutes it, but when you spread around 1.6 million over 10 people, that's 160,000 in round numbers.
That's
okay.
Right.
And you got to get beyond. Because see, one thing that we as a culture got to do is really get into where we understand what real money is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know for a fact that Hampton's coaches were told several years ago, "Oh, we don't put our kids out there to get the hell beat out of them. We play compatible teams, and we put the same product on the field that they're doing. Although they're struggling right now with football, but they have done very well against top quality. And we can do that. You don't have to play, but see, you got to get mid majors now. The one thing you do deal with, there's a certain snobbery, because see, now we know that black schools are in the hood.
That's
Some of them know enough about black schools, know they're in the hood too. But see, our schools got to be willing to, instead of, I think Hampton's facility holds about 7,000 or 8,000 people.
Exactly.
Check it out, campus. Go down to the Hampton Arena, which seats 12,000, 13,000, I guess it is.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to go to a bigger place.
Right.
Because see, we saw a couple of years ago what can happen. Because remember, the NT again. They lost on a half court shot in the MEAC first round. So they go to the NIT. They go down I-40 instead of getting beat by Winston-Salem. They went over and beat Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go down and beat UNC Charlotte.
Yep.
Go down to Miami and have referees who didn't know how to blow the whistle for one team because they were playing the ACC.
That's right.
We saw, and see, Pat Bibb is one of those coaches, much like Coach Six at Hampton now. Mm-hmm. She knows how to, first of all, she knows how to win, and both of them know how to win.
Yeah.
So you can't put that on them. They know how to win, and they get their kids in position, put their kids in position to win.
Oh, sure.
And that's what has to happen across the board. I put something on the Honor Dan board yesterday. I think they were talking about has Cornell Meter messed up, set the standard too high for other HBCUs. Heck no.
That's a preposterous thing to say. Unbelievable.
Who made that asinine comment?
All I can remember is I don't remember his name right off.
But you know, Fred, it speaks to something that you just touched on. It's like the coaching quality is there, and we know a lot of those brothers and sisters that are coaching in HBCUs are motivated by things other than just trying to win the game and make that money, even though they know that's part of their game plan. The bottom line here is that if a Hampton, because of their coaching skills and acumen, can stay toe-to-toe with mid-majors, given how the talent pool has been such depleted, then you know it can work. That's a model that can work where you can get paid and you can have those rivalries and fill the house up every now and then without having to be a victim du jour like Delaware State did to get so much money that you actually cost yourself a conference game, and you realize that it's a write-off because you're going to make more from that victim game than anything you're going to make in conference. So that's a whole separate discussion, but in the mix I want to throw in our colleague and friend who will be doing some NCAA stuff for us, and we'll be talking some Big East. My brother from JCE TV, Patrick Farrar. Patrick, what's cooking on, brother?
Live in living color. Gentlemen, how are you guys?
How you doing, man?
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, B. How y'all be?
We all well, brother. And as we were just talking about the Lady Pirates of Hampton and how they got short-shrifted in the women's draw. Now, you've been covering the NCAA here, and I know you've been deep into the Big East field, but when you saw the brackets, this is something that I've always had issue with ever since they started this crap, when they've expanded the field. And that's the last four in, first four out. Now, they're essentially telling you, if y'all don't do this, y'all out and you ain't making no money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know that's an incentive, but is it just me, or is there something about saying it out there in front so blatantly that turns me off to the whole presence, especially when these kids ain't getting paid?
Well, I could do a dissertation on what I feel about the NC2A, and we ain't got enough time, and plus,
that's right.
Midway through I'll be cussing and probably wipe out half the thing here, I've dealt with NC2A from my years, back, at State and Ohio State to covering, the league for, covering the Big East, and I've seen this nonsense that goes on, and the fact that we have the four schools, as always, and unfortunately it's one of the black colleges that are putting at the end because they don't want to be put in the position that we're including you, but you got to make yourself get in. Oh, by the way, North Carolina A&T won tonight.
All right.
They beat Liberty, so hopefully that helps them out a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of the beast of the NC2A. To make themselves look like they're concerned and open to everyone being involved. It's an old story, man. And like I'm listening to what everybody's saying. It's a shame. And players are not making money. What I have envisioned. And folks told me that I Patrick, even though I don't drink, they said, you've been drinking something or smoking something. I don't drink or smoke, never have. But I see one day, you heard it here, that one day there's going to be a HBCU school that happens to fall in or recruit some brothers at that school that's going to make an impact, more than just getting out the first round. It's going to happen. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. So
I hope they hurry up.
Yes.
Well, that's an intriguing statement, Patrick.
Look at Hampton. Hampton went on probation because of lack of graduation. Now we keep having our HBCUs fall short when it comes to academia and get put on probation. It ain't gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's some meat and Patrick sandwich though, y'all, because remember early on when the high school kids were signing their letters of intent, I forget which school it was, but one of those kids, I'm sure somebody had to scramble for an HBCU hat because when he said what school he was going to, I'm sure it wasn't. Thank you, it was Virginia State. So they weren't planning on this kid. Maybe he was going to go to Virginia in their mind, but not Virginia State. But But having said that, to Reggie's point about following the money, the CIAA basketball tournament makes a shitload of money every year. everybody knows this. Even the TV stations and mainstream media know it. That they indulge them for those few days because they know with the ancillary revenue that they bring to wherever the hell they are
in Charlotte,
they're getting paid. So if the CIAA formula works for basketball, why in the wide world of sports can it not work with all four conferences merging together and agreeing to whatever so that they see the greater good might be you bring some of that talent, you keep some of that talent, and you make everybody else pay attention when them dollars start rolling in.
But Michael, my thing about all this stuff, these conference presidents are going to leave the ego at the door. NBA needs the NCAA, and they need to leave the ego to the door and start dealing with this stuff.
Well, there's collateral damage for sure. I mean, we all know what happened at Florida A&M. And even though that crime is separate and distinct in part of what it is, it was connected to the football program, the hazing incident, which led to the death of the drum major. Now, if these folks are thinking big picture, as Fred alluded to, you've got rivalries that are already in-house. You had one that was made big only because Grambling had created such a large Subway alumni outside of their little hole in the wall in Louisiana that people were aware of Grambling, that they loved Grambling, and they respected Grambling for what the coach had done there. And to a lesser degree, they did the same thing with Gaither down at Florida A&M. And even to a lesser degree, Earl Banks right there in Baltimore Morgan State. So there has to be a common thread where these folks are saying, look, if in order for us to survive, we got to think big picture too. And I can't think with all those intelligent folks with all those degrees up their wazoos that somebody can't be thinking the same thing that we're thinking here.
Hey, Mike, let me tell something. I'm sorry. At Tennessee State, how come that HBCU has done so proper and they are in the European Conference? Explain that to me.
Ohio Valley.
State and how they're doing good.
You want to know? You want to know how and why?
Go ahead, Fred.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's delve into some history here.
Please.
In part of my research with the sports encyclopedia and working with Coach McClendon and all this other stuff I've done over the years, you start getting to know. And I used to talk to Coach Mack about the guy who hired him, actually from Hampton back in 1953 or 4. And it was you're talking about Dr. Davis was a former coach. He understood what athletics could do for the school. And it was one of the major schools in black college, among black colleges, that was built around athletics because it gets your name in the paper. Eddie Robinson was a copycat. He even admitted he was a copycat. He looked at what Tennessee State was doing. He looked at what FAMU was doing. Because FAMU had the Orange Blossom go back to the early 30s. And they could make enough money off of that one game to basically run their program. All the other games were great. But they went on the road, the works. They drew, and they played well, and they put a good product on the field. Okay? Same thing with Tennessee State. Dr. Davis understood. Eddie Robinson and Dr. Ralph Waldo Emerson Jones, who brought in Eddie Robinson, understood. A former coach who understood. Now, one of the problems that you constantly run into with HBCUs, we are about academics, not athletics. And as a friend of mine describes it, you got the geeks who are finally in charge, and this is their
revenge of the nerds.
So this they can get Lord help you get one that was bullied by somebody who was all the jocks, because you end up with somebody like we have at Winston-Salem State who the best thing he was bringing a former coach as an AD who had vision, who has basically been able to in Hayes' situation. Hayes is retired already, so he ain't got to work.
Right.
He does. He gets well paid for it and does a great job. But he ain't got to work no more. He can't. He's done what, and so he does a lot of things. But you got to have those kind of people at the top. He's fortunately one of the ones who has been exposed enough and understand. If you go back far enough to see how he was as a coach, how well organized and business-minded he was to get what he needed. But see, this can permeate the whole of HBCU if we get some people at the top with enough vision and enough balls to allow it to happen. Because one of the biggest things that you run into in HBCUs is you can't have no coach out there making more than the teachers.
There you go.
And Lord help you get one out there making more than the chancellor or the president, i.e., a good half of the BCS school.
Sure.
Their chancellors for president makes maybe $500,000 plus some perks for his house and that kind of stuff. Head football coach, $3, $4, $5 million. And these kind of things, and don't let the coach be more popular than the president.
But see, Fred, you're going under the pretense. I mean, not you, but the pretense is there is no pretense with these BCS schools. They know what they're in the business for, just like you alluded to. But as you said that, it made me think about Kentucky and the fact that they got their ass whipped by Robert Morris last night in the NIT. And two things that come up. And Patrick, I'm going to go to you first here. When Kentucky lost, Calipari was at the podium, bitching and moaning, talking about, we deserve to lose, blah, 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 and all of that. But this is the same SOB who told those young men that were in his last graduating class, y'all got to get the fuck out. I got 5 new people coming in, and whatever I told you, disregard. You're not getting an education here other than I promised you that I would get you to the NBA. I'm keeping my promise, or you're on your own or whatever. If you stay, basically I'm going to screw you because you're not going to be starting. So that's essentially what's going to happen to this Kentucky class. There's 6 new coming in because he's already signed 6 of the top 20 recruits.
Make it 7.
You
just signed one today.
Yeah, 7. So this carpetbagger continues to do what they do. The University of Kentucky knew what they were getting when they did it, and that's exactly why they went to bed with the devil, essentially, in letting this guy go ahead and work his own show in spite of what he had done, in spite of the violations he caused and all the damage that was left in the wake of Massachusetts and the University of Memphis. So as you see all of this coming off.
And UMass, too.
Well, did I not mention UMass? Yes, UMass, too. But as you see all this coming off, you're wondering, where is the voice to say, wait a minute, you ain't no college coach. I mean, if you want to say you're an agent, you might as well say that because essentially that's what he is. I mean, that kind of talent, can we agree across the board, most any decent coach can work it and get those kids into the NCAAs and whatever happens. I mean, we're going off this, we think he's too much of this or he thinks he's too big for this, and he's telling these kids to their faces that, if you ain't making it to where I expect you to make it, you're screwed. What coach has the balls to say that to a kid who's supposed to be coming for the education?
Well, let me give you this. I've had the opportunity to work with Cal when I was in front office of the Nets the years he was there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know Cal pretty well, and I know what he does. I know what he's done. I know what he's done in Kentucky. Let's be clear. Mm-hmm. These kids and their families are complicit with what's going on. Mm-hmm. This is not 40 years ago where they don't know what the deal is. There's enough information out. They go enough AAUs. There's enough information from coaches and other people to know what's going on. One thing I do know about Cal, he'll tell you, like he said, Michael, up front, what the deal is. Yeah. Now, if you go to the dance, you want to dance to James Brown, not to James Taylor. Don't get it confused. Yep. So with that in mind, yesterday losing to Kentucky, losing to Robert Morris, he made a statement this morning about this is the worst job that he's done getting these young guys together. Well, with 7 Then a new guy that they just got in today, 6'9" power forward from Plano, Texas, kid named Julius Randle. He's coming in.
Right.
You can bet your bottom dollar. I see at least 2 to 3 of those guys on the team now. They're gonna leave.
Going elsewhere.
They're going elsewhere. All right.
Sure.
And new 5 is going to come in, and he's going to tell the new 5, here's the deal. And he practically said it in a little interview I heard this morning. I messed up last year. What I did last year ain't going to happen this year. You're going to come in, you're going to compete. If you don't compete well, guess what? See ya. And again, I can't, Michael, I can't knock the cat because he tells them up front just what they want to do. Now, along those lines, you're talking about what the HBUs do in terms of not having the kind of ammunition to expand their programs.
Sure.
Let me give you another example. At another level, I'm gonna give you Rutgers here in Jersey.
Okay.
I've been covering Rutgers, putting Rutgers for about 16 years now. Now, I started when a guy was there, and I forgot his name. I forgot his name on purpose because he was terrible. And a guy named Bob Mulcahy came in, who was the head of the New Jersey Sporting Authority. Runs Giants, formerly Giant Stadium and the Bridge Track and the arena and whatnot. Mulcahy left there to become the athletic director at Rutgers. Now, Mulcahy had a lot of political ties to do certain things. What he did, he initiated the process of taking Rutgers, who had that mind that you just said about certain HBCU schools where, it's about academic standards. It's about, we have to educate our young people. That's fine. But McKinney said, look here, here's what we're going to do. We're going to expand this thing. Now, Rutgers was still a very struggling football team. We're going to expand the stadium. We're going to build this program because of the fact that where it's the state school, we have to be a major presence in this part of the country. Too many of our students and athletes are getting away.
Right.
And that's what he did.
That's true. I do remember that.
That's exactly what he did. Now, the flip side of that is you said somebody has to speak up and talk about, this is wrong, this is not right. What the perception of Rutgers was to many people in New Jersey was that Rutgers was a public Ivy League school, like Yale, Harvard, and Rutgers.
Right.
Yale, Harvard. Yeah. Okay. Ain't happening with public money. Okay.
Yeah.
So what he did was establish an athletic program that led to, Greg Schiano coming in. Greg struggled first couple of years. Greg got the team going. Now, Rutgers is taking off. And what he has done is similar to what Gonzaga has done. Gonzaga was a small little school, and the basketball program went well. And what you have to realize from my years of being in sports marketing, if you get on TV, you can't pay for that. College can't pay for that. Yeah. And that's what Mulcahy did to Rutgers. They have just the R. The black folks call it the R. The R all over New Jersey now. And
that's true.
What's going to have to happen, some black president's going to say, look here, this is what we're going to do. It might cost me my job, but it might work. We're going to get some money from somewhere. We're going to put some athletes. We're going to compete. Now, I think Winston-Salem was trying to do that, trying to go D1, but it didn't work out. But somebody's going to try it, and that's the model. The fact that if you can pull that in, have an athletic team that can be exposed, and believe me, it will pull people in. Now, like you said, somebody got to have the kahunas to pull it off.
No joke. Reggie, given what Patrick said, it does make a lot of sense. But when you look at the fact that when those kids are told the real deal, some of them will sacrifice a year of their life to redshirt. We don't know what their academics are like because, and I have to give Patrick credit for this, we know this happens. Some of those parents are thinking dollar signs even worse than damn kids are. And they're asking the coach, instead of the coach getting ready to scam them, they're asking, how many times my baby going to be on TV this year? Is my baby starting?
Wait,
you know.
Mike, I have to interrupt. Can I move to the town? Can you set me up with a job?
There you go. That's right. Can you hook a brother up?
Let me tell you, it happened. I'm gonna give a perfect scenario. The kid that's at Florida now, Mike Rosario. Mm-hmm. He left Rutgers because he wasn't playing well to go to Florida because his father said he wouldn't get enough playing time. Guess what his daddy's at now? Working.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
So you mean to tell me a black school can't do something like that?
Well, you got to figure Rutgers must have invested upwards of $5 to $10 million to upgrade like they did.
That's chump change.
And that's chump change when you consider where they've gotten. They've already been at least one BCS bowl. So,
5.
you know.
No. They've been to 5 straight bowls.
Right, 5 straight bowls, but I'm saying.
Yep.
When you look at the high price spread, they've made that money back, and you're right, there is all over the state. So they've done a great job of branding, and branding, and in many cases, don't cost nothing but piece and elbow grease. Mm-hmm. And who among the schools that we see in HBCUs has the wherewithal to brand? You know, it may take a conference effort, but at least if it's a conference effort, you know you're going to see that money. So again, we go back to cooperation. So unfortunately, as good a piece as Gary has written here, what's going to happen when they all get in that smoke-filled room and start bitching about who's going to do what and how much is it going to cost me?
I know
that. See, Mike, one of the things you got to look at here is, okay, look at the ACC.
Right.
Now, I don't know who is president of anybody in the ACC other than, I think he's still
Wake Forest?
President, no. At University of North Carolina, because Thorpe is from my hometown. I knew him as a youngster, as a teenager in high school trying to play golf. Okay, so I know him. But I don't know nobody else as president, but I know who John Swarford is.
Yeah.
You know, and Swarford runs the ACC. Now, as many problems I had with Gary and some of the other commissioners, among the things that I've seen with the commissioners of the various HBCU conferences is you had presidents and chancellors who would let him know we is the boss, and so he doesn't get to do a lot of things that he wanted to do. He let some things get out of hand, as you know, which was unfortunate. But when you think about it, Swarford runs the ACC. He's gone out and gotten all these, quote, great academic programs right. What's the major program at Notre Dame? Football.
Yep.
That's where he was at.
Yep.
What's the major at Syracuse?
Basketball.
Pittsburgh. Football. You know, Atlantic Coast Conference. Now, where on the Atlantic Coast is Notre Dame located?
It ain't in the Midwest.
You know, because if I'm not mistaken, Notre Dame is on the other side of Mississippi River.
Yeah.
Or it might as well be. You know, and you know, and what is the natural connection between Boston College and University of Miami? Football. So, you know, our leadership have to get out this bandwagon of being these great. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I think, and I know for a fact, you can be an athlete and be an outstanding student.
Yes, you can.
I know,
you most definitely can. That's right.
But see, you know, what you can't, what you got to understand at an early age, that okay, you as a student, I mean, you know, you've heard me use the analogy of physics. Who are the greatest physicists on the campus? Not them guys out there who know the quantum theory and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Who can stop a baseball at 90 to 100 miles an hour, stop it dead, and then put it back out in the field where he wants it? Who can kick a ball off the ground that you know you spot? Who can make, you know, you talk about dumb ball players, who can make 13, 14, 15, 25 decisions, you know, with a blink of an eye
at the
on
speed
the snap of the ball.
Yep.
So if you train them to use their minds for other things, like you train them to use their minds for football or basketball or whatever the sport may be, you know, think about it. you got to be a lawyer, physicist, and all these other things put together because, you know, you got to know what the rules are. You know what you can get away with, but you can't.
That's
so
right.
You got to think your person out there. But see, you can do that without being a nerd. You can be, because like I said, I did it, so I know that it can be done. But our schools got to get out of this nonsense about we're about academics, we're not about athletics, and understand that those guys and those girls out there on the fields are students too. And you know, one of the big things I can say about Winston, since Bill has been there, and people used to talk about how Bill didn't graduate nobody, the ones who didn't want to. You see, and nowadays,
that's a good point.
He puts you. The old SID office was turned into one of our academic centers. They got the computers, all the works are in there. I don't know how he got it done, but he got it done. And see, these are the kind of things that we do for the quote unquote outstanding students, because they're issued laptops along with their own keys. You know, they're issued tablets and stuff, because this is what we do for kids who don't really need it.
There you go.
Unless they're financially troubled. So this shows it can be done. And back to what Patrick was saying, when you get into the whole thing about marketing and sports marketing, our schools do a piss poor job. You got kids with communication majors, but you don't let them do radio. You don't let them do TV. You can do that on you can do that on the internet. I watched I watched that fiasco with Winston-Salem State Saturday, the last few minutes when they decided to give the game away. And it was being streamed. We've streamed games at Winston-Salem State for years. So we know we have the capacity to do it. But the willpower, to put the little bit of money it takes to do that, you got kids out there learning. Where do you think Learfield Sports came from, which now runs, or who don't they run? You know, and that started with a bunch of kids who were stringers and that so forth, long before the days of the internet and that sort of stuff. And Learfield Sport now is one of the biggest. What's the other one? Jefferson Pilot. You know, they're so big. Jefferson Pilot's so big with the ACC that even the ESPN can't buy them out.
That's right.
That shows what can happen if you get the kahunas and get the mindset that this is what we want done. And hey, find somebody who can do it. And to her credit, I think the young lady that Jackie just took over at CIAA, I think that some of her mindset. Yeah.
Say, Mike?
Yes.
Can I throw something right quick?
Yes.
About 16 years ago, there was a school out west that had 2,000 students, virtually 2,600 students, virtually unknown. The guy brought in one player who was a basketball player who made an outstanding contribution and went on to play professionally. Since that time, that school with just 2,000 people has been in the NCAA tournament 15 straight years. The student population, because of watching that team, has gone from 2,000 to 12,000. And today they're the number one team in the country.
That's right.
That's what they did, because somebody, if they can do that with 2,000, you mean to tell me with 5,000, 8,000 people at Hampton they can't do that?
It starts with one.
Real quick. Okay, look at Norfolk State, and Dr. Fred would back me up this. They did what y'all guys said when they built Coach Price Stadium. I think it holds about 15, maybe 20,000. I mean, they did it, but but when it came to them playing ODU in the playoffs 2 years ago, they got underbidded. Matter of fact, they didn't even put a bid up. And ODU stepped up with a smaller station and got the bid. And the problem for that, when Michael Vick played for Virginia Tech and went to that national championship game against Florida State, enrollment blew out the water for Virginia Tech. And look at now, and they built a new stadium. So everything has already been done.
But Rich, you got to remember, just like in Field of Dreams when they said, if you build it, they will come, what they forgot to say, if you build it, you better make sure they come. So, and that's where the marketing aspect of this is the X factor. You have to be able to market, and we know with the situation in Mississippi where Alcorn State, Jackson State, and Mississippi Valley were on tenterhooks. They were tenuously teetering, ready to fall off the edge because of a combination of factors, but among these, the same things we're talking about here, because they don't have any money in their state schools, and if you don't have that one guy to build from and people with the vision to work it, they're going to die a unnatural death.
Well, one of the things that hurt Norfolk, in Norfolk, now you want to talk about a school that was built on athletics?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Brooks, Norfolk State became a 4-year school the year I was born, 1953.
Mm-hmm. Dr.
Brooks, Lyman Brooks, who is the president there again, and he was, from all indications, he was somewhat of a nerd, but he was also a smart nerd. He understood. Norfolk, first of all, under him, Norfolk was playing 4-year schools and beating them in the old EIAC. And then when they progressed from there, and they were a 2-year school that played in a 4-year conference for 13 years before they became a 4-year school. Okay, he understood what athletics could do, and that's why he brought in coaches who are outstanding coaches, and even that's how people like Coach Price. And then he was followed pretty directly by Harrison Wilson, who again a former coach. I think he's a grandfather of one Russell Wilson. Something like that. But he one of his visions was Price Stadium because for years they played football over at ODU. ODU didn't even have a football team.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he played. It was a nice stadium, but they used for soccer or something. But see, the size of the arena at Norfolk, I think it's like 8,000 plus seats, which at the time was good. They need to expand more now because see what people talk about the CIAA going back to Virginia. There's no place in Virginia for it to go because you're not going on University of Virginia's campus and playing there. And all these Negroes are not going over to University of Virginia. Forget that. In their new arena. So you gotta have people who are broad-minded and understand some of the stuff that Patrick was talking about, the whole marketing piece. Our schools, their HBCUs who have administrations who don't understand that you use athletics as part of your marketing, as part of your fundraising, all those things, and you build that into it, and then break some off for the athletic department. Most of the money that you hear about these schools getting from these beat down games and all that kind of stuff goes into the general fund, not into athletics.
Of course. Yeah.
So the kids who go out and earn the money to watch it go to some geek in a laboratory somewhere. It ain't fair.
And guess what? And guess what? They ain't coming to see him teach his class.
That's right. They are not coming to see the physics department throw test tubes on the 50-yard line. They come to football.
Yep.
And you see the really sad thing is, especially at Division II schools, you get a kid to go out and get beat up on Saturday, and he leaves the school with a bill.
Yep.
He has to borrow money to go to pay. He gets partial scholarships. He got to borrow money. If his family if he doesn't qualify for so much, he ends up leaving school with a bill, and that's pathetic.
Yep.
Because I thought Dr. Moore at Virginia State a few years ago, I thought he was going to do some things along those lines, but it never quite happened, and he ended up leaving. I don't know if it's his fault from leadership or his board, because Winston had a board that was broad-minded to get us into that, but then they were also narrow-minded to pull us out. And I think so often what could have been done, and what can be done still, but you can't. It takes leadership. And as long as we can continue to have these, our schools
I agree.
Suffer from a lot of the stuff that Dr. Woodson mentioned, almost 100 years ago?
Yep.
And miseducation of Negro. Well, you have another form of that in place today, and the real downside to that is you have young people suffering because of it, and because they suffer the way they do, you end up with kids who leave, they're bitter, and you can't really blame them.
Sure they do. Gentlemen, I've got to switch focus to the NFL because as we speak, the NFL hierarchy and the team owners and some coaches are huddling up and tinkering with something that really needed not to be tinkered with. Apparently, the Rules Committee has done some damage in eliminating the tuck rule, which is a little too late for Gary and some Oakland fans. But they're also adding unnecessary challenges penalized by loss of timeout, where a play will be reviewed again. We saw that happen in the Thanksgiving game, where because of an unnecessary challenge, the Houston Texans won a game when they really shouldn't have, or maybe shouldn't have. But the thing that was most egregious was this reassessment of a ruling regarding using the crown of the helmet. Now, everybody here has bald. And from Pop Warner up, what's the first thing they tell you when that ball is inside you and they tell you go forth? You lower your head and surge through. Too many of these people now have come to the fore where this might be some nerd action tinkering on part of Commissioner Goodell, but now running backs are being punished for this. But I see something even more sinister here. Our colleague Pat Freeman called this a couple of weeks ago on my show when he said that Jeff Fisher, that son of a bitch, head of the competition committee, his main focus was to make sure that the read option was going to find a defensive counter. He was going to find it. That was going to be his life's mission. And I think this is what he's using to counter it. Because when you think about it, y'all, who do we have on the center now that's doing damage? We got Colin Kaepernick. We got Russell Wilson. We got Cam Newton. We're going to have Geno Smith, who, even though they try to talk him down, they realize he's heading above everything else in this draft.
Yeah, and even Ron Jaworski said that.
and next year, and of course, E.J. Manuel will get some notice as well out of Florida State, but next year you're going to have Teddy Bridgewater coming in.
Yes,
you're going to have Keith Price out there in Washington doing damage. The kid Boykin down at TCU, whose arm I love. I'd love to catch a deep ball from that kid. And basically, the neighborhood is getting crowded and darker. Sound familiar, y'all? So here we have Fisher devising this. Well, if Kaepernick can't lower his head and use the crown, he won't be knocking the crap out of linebackers. And the same with Wilson and RG3 and all these other brothers. Robert Griffin. I don't want to use his nickname. But y'all get my point here. But Marshall Faulk, among everybody, brought the most light down on this. And I'll start with you, Gary. When Marshall said straight up, look, y'all, this is ridiculous. It's a stupid rule. If I run through and bring my chin up, I'm going to get knocked on my ass, and the possibility of more people getting injured is more obvious than if I were to lower my helmet and tuck it to a pile.
Look, even in a wheelchair football, we tuck our heads.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what kind of nonsense is this? It's a natural position when you're running.
Exactly.
So I don't get this. And I think you're right. I think you're down. And that clown in Tennessee is going to ruin many African-American quarterbacks' careers.
Look, Patrick, you and I have sat in a lot of press boxes together.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a whole lot of stuff. This has got to rank among some of the funkiest stuff the league has ever tried to pull.
Mike, because of the nature of who I am, there's got to be more than this. Well, we know what the main reason is the suit. That's the suit.
Yeah, that's right.
We know that.
Yes.
But I'm thinking there's more to it out there than what's coming out. Now, I know they've adjusted some things on the outside. The rules won't be applicable within the first 3 yards, the line of scrimmage.
Outside the tackle box.
Outside the tackles. Yeah, okay. Yeah, rhyme. But there's got to be something more to this then because this came out of the woodwork, thinking, where did this come from? And then on top of that, what bothers me is more especially, it's going. I can guarantee you, as sure as I'm black and I'm sitting in this chair, there's going to be a game each week of the season. Guy running down the sidelines.
Yes, come on with it. That's right.
And you think the problem that they had with Green Bay and Seattle is bad? It's going to be a play that's going to cause a problem, and it's going to be reevaluated again. Because I tell you, as an old ball, even though I was on the different side of the ball, I know cats want to put something on you. Are you going to stop and put your elbow up? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But, at the pro level, there's that psychotic nature that being around the league as long as I have.
You better believe
man, forget the crowd. I'm going to take you out. So there's going to be a problem within the context of how they want to run this. And the biggest issue I have with this, Jeff Fisher and some knuckleheads who ain't never only chin strap that they put on is a ski mask someplace down going to Aspen, talking about playing football. I'm going, what is going on? It baffles me. I'm sorry, Jim, it baffles me.
Listen, you hit it right on the head when we're talking about the possibility of affecting outcomes of games. I'll be nice about it and saying it that way. But you think about, let's say that playoff game between Baltimore and Denver, when Jacoby Jones cleared the secondary and then turned around, or maybe the catch in the Super Bowl when he catches the ball and then turns up in front of the defender. Now, if we're going by this new rule, just the Super Bowl alone, I could see at least a dozen instances where a flag would have been thrown.
And they would too.
And they would have been 15-yard dead ball fouls. So now you're talking about the discretion of the referee affecting a game. And we know when millions, and I do mean millions of ducats are on the line, there's going to be some skullduggery going on, y'all.
You want to fix the game, fix it through the referees.
For sure.
Duck rule.
Hey, listen, Gary, we make jokes about the tuck rule now, but we knew everything about that rule was bogus. It's funny, they were doing a broadcast on the Mouse about the anatomy of what happened with the Raiders and the Patriots and whatnot, and they wanted to put out this little graphic. And sometimes, these things do come out with a little bit of light. Ever since the tuck ruling, the Patriots have won almost 77% of their games. Now, they didn't add that they cheat like a bunch of motherfuckers, but I digress. Now, since the tuck rule game, the Oakland Raiders have only won less than 35% of their games.
That's surprising.
Michael, every major rule that the NFL has done, against the Oakland Raiders, every major rule that you see has been Oakland Raider rule.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. I don't mean to laugh, y'all, but see, this is an inside joke. When Gary speaks as clear as that, he's mad as a motherfucker. I'm just letting y'all know that right now.
well, hey, Mike, as a loyal Steeler fan, I guess I shouldn't bring up the Immaculate Reception.
Franco has is still running.
That's too funny. But to get back to this whole leading with the crown thing, Fred, you played on the line. Now you know what it can do when you make the proper block to spring your back or give your quarterback enough time to help them make that play. What's going to happen now to the mindset of an offensive line, or for that matter, a defensive line, when you're making hay, and then all of a sudden, because you're making an instinctive move, and I say instinctive because we all ball from the time we were kids, and you don't change that aspect of coaching on a whim. Now going and hitting the helmet of the quarterback, that's one thing. That's something that you can focus on. But when you're telling somebody that one of the first things that you learn in football as to what to do, no, you can't do that now. Or if you do that, we got to wonder about what team you're playing for, what the situation is, what the spread might be. I mean, this doesn't give the game any integrity at all by changing this. And many running backs already in the NFL said, this is full of shit.
Well, even worse than that, first of all, you're going to do what comes natural. And
That's
see, the other thing they tell you, you've always been told, is, about lowering your head.
Mm-hmm.
You actually bring your head up.
That's
and
right.
you because your head will bend further back than it will forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you get your neck broken. So
Yep.
you don't want it down but so much. But having said that, the other thing that comes into play here is this rule strictly for running backs? Because see, you got if you're playing inside, I mean, you want to keep your head down, your shoulders square, and all those kinds of things.
That's right.
And even we've seen this, how stupid this is, even with some of the going at the quarterback.
Yep.
He led with the crown of his head. Well, it wasn't the crown of his head when you initiated, but if the guy moves and you can't hit him with your shoulder, what are you going to hit him with? Your head?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
And when you draw a bead on somebody, and quarterback's told to step up, wimps. But when he steps up, you go from the shoulder, and because you want to catch him to the outside, so he actually is gonna. If he steps up, he's stepping into the crowd anyway. So if he steps up too much, then you're gonna hit him with your head. So
that's exactly right. See, there's too much gray area, Fred, where they can allow for corruption in the game. If Patrick's coming on a safety blitz, and Reggie sees him, and you're doing a 7-step drop because I just ran an 8. And the block is made, but because you did the 7-step drop and he had to surge up 2 steps to catch Patrick before he could get you, the referee can officially throw the flag if he's leading with his head.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or if it
am I right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
But see,
all I got to say, where's Jimmy the Greek when you need him? Inside information.
Please, this is going to be a mess because now they've got to spend whatever number of weeks orienting the refs on what to look for. How the hell can you find something like that? And let's not even discount the speed in all of this. When are you going to decide which split second was the one where he led with his crown?
That's the trick.
And see, it wasn't really a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And what about if the
guys went up to the
or if the replay does, and this is going to slow down the game. I tell you, it's already a 3-hour game. Why do you add another 3 hours already?
This is a bigger issue in assessing what they've done to the game thus far. Because let's review. First, when fantasy football started to become a real pain in the ass in terms of people paying attention to it and the NFL realizing they could make money from it, that's where the trouble started. Because we knew then the sabermetrics of all these obtuse statistics were also going to come into play. Then we saw how all of a sudden, when you're at pick your stadium and we're watching the game, we would see the scores coming in from the out-of-town games in between plays. As we're doing our thing, Patrick, all of a sudden now we not only see that, we see the fantasy scores for these fucking players.
Mm-hmm.
It's got no business there. I mean, they're making no bones about the fact that we want to try to make money any way we can. But if it's a game where there's money on the line and points and everything else that's applicable, how are you going to try to say it's a game when you're throwing out alternative situations that got nothing to do with the game in the form of fantasy leagues and all this other crap? You're not thinking about player safety. You're thinking about making money. I mean,
and here's the kicker. Mm-hmm. With the aspect of them having this rule to try to make the game more safer. Mike, didn't we talk about they want to play 2 more games?
Yep. That's right. It's coming there. See, this is part of also some.
And don't forget preseason game. Remember preseason?
They're gonna cut down preseason games. It's gonna eventually expand to 18 games, and is going to expand, where it's going to go worldwide. You know, Pat talked about this on the show. He said it would theoretically be a 17-game season with 2 breaks in between, 2 byes. Yep. So you're talking roughly a 6-month season, and you're going to be traveling abroad. So now, in addition to factoring in the East-West concept of travel time, which we saw, you know, kind of hurt Seattle in that playoff game, even though Russell Wilson was kicking their ass at the end, you're going to see transcontinental travel because in that second break, they're going to be flying at least 6 hours to the other side of the water. You know, we already know England's established that. England, Holland, Germany, all of those are within grasp. And the diagram of how the first World Football League was laid out, they understood was a logistical nightmare in terms of getting teams from the States to Europe and trying to make that work. But they had to do it because they were planting a seed. And it wasn't until they made the agreements with the large soccer clubs over in Europe, like Manchester United, like Real Madrid, or FC Barcelona, and a couple of others. They're going to work together now. They're going to work together because they're all going to make money. You know, the soccer clubs want some of Vegas, and the football clubs want some of Ladbrokes, which is the big betting house over there, brokerage house there. So it really is all about money, and the players are going to be treated even more like chattel, and there'll always be the handful that'll get some. The timing will be right where they'll get that one big contract, but the veterans, and this we said on our show and on other shows, the veterans are going to get screwed. We know that they're not going to get that second big contract or the contract they think they're going to get, and if their agents aren't thinking the same way, like in the Elvis Dumerville situation, you know, they're going to screw their players and they're going to screw themselves out of jobs.
Yeah, Mike, but they just gave retired players $45 million.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. See, that's kind of twisted because that settlement, and I say that with quotes, is not real money. It's almost like a football contract, and you'll know what football contracts are like. Now, I think, because I haven't read it all yet, I don't want to speak out too far on it, but I already know that there are players like Jeff Nixon and Dave Pear, former players, who have major problems with that. And I need to read the whole thing before I say more. But that number that they threw out is the same kind of number they threw out when we said we signed Fred Whitted to a 5-year, $55 million contract. Unless we know what Fred is getting at as his bonus money, Fred could wipe his ass with that contract if he can't show up to play.
Not just that. You got to understand what's guaranteed, what's not guaranteed, how much of it is bonuses based on performance.
That's right.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And see, but talking about they're working together. One thing I was sort of harking back to, we were talking about the black HBCUs. Now look at how you got, you know, nobody is bigger snobs than the British and most Europeans when it comes to soccer.
Yep.
We think that, we Americans until very recently thought that was a sissy sport.
Well, I love soccer actually, but I digress.
But in general, we thought it was a sissy sport like we used, like black folks used to think basketball was.
Exactly.
But then eventually we came around and found out that we could, one, play it, two, make money at it, and people enjoy it. And look at how these almost oxymoronic sports are now working together.
Yep. And
we are talking about a model for HBCU chancellors and presidents. That just sort of popped up there. That's from an athlete who was a good student. But but when you look at this whole thing, it's all about the moolah and nothing about the men. And it's really unfortunate because you're going to see, now I'm waiting to see when one of the brothers from here goes over there and they start yelling monkey this and monkey that. Now, guys, I think that's something they need to really prepare for. Because there's so much in it, so it's pathetic. You think you're back in Mississippi about 50 years ago.
That's right.
Michael, let me add another element to this. Thinking back on what Fred was saying. From a marketing point of view, you talked about the nature of how the game would be going international. and how the soccer fields are being used. Now, I read this in research about 13 years ago. I saw this, and it's happening.
Yep.
A group of people have come into the game and to expand the game westward in terms of the Samoan population.
Sure.
But there's going to be another level of athlete coming into, we already have the soccer guys in terms of punters and kickers.
Sure.
But there's another element going to come into this game that will emerge, and that's only a couple of people have been involved in this process, but it's coming. But in coming, it will expand the eyeballs of people in other parts of the world.
Most
that
definitely.
element is rugby.
Yep.
It
I
is
agree.
coming in big time. Primarily on special teams, guys who are getting acclimated. The Jets just signed a guy from I think he's from Germany. I think he's from Germany.
Yeah.
I think San Diego has one from San Antonio. A guy at my school, my Ohio State, a guy named Nat Ebert. Nat Ebert didn't even start. Nat Ebert only played special teams. Guess who played all 16 games of special teams this year? Nat Ebert with the New England Patriots.
That's right. Sure.
And now Matt Ebert is getting big time response, and he's a celebrity over in Australia because they're watching the game. The point is, I'm trying to make, there are elements to this marketing aspect that will add platforms of viewership and money, like we're saying, to make the game what it is.
Most definitely.
All those things have to be compatible with making the game, safe, whatever that is.
They mean profitable.
Yeah, and profitable.
They mean profitable.
Well, we've had several punters, and I know a few years ago you've seen several punters I know from Australian football.
Australian rules football, sure. Yeah, my Eagles had one for a while.
Because I remember one guy, he used to kick from the side instead of straight on. And then there was another one, and there's all these elements out there that, I don't think we as, quote, observers have taken a look at, and then we're going to let the real downer is putting somebody like Fisher in charge, because his thing is going to be he's going to probably get something in that allows even harder hits on quarterbacks in the name of stopping.
He is. He is, Fred.
Because and like I say, I primarily played defense, and I know most of the guys here probably play defense because there's a certain aggression in your voices and all that kind of good stuff. But when you think about it, when you're on defense, you're reacting, and you can only I know some of those, like those Darryl Stingley kind of hits. Those can mostly be avoided to a point. But when you're out there and you're a linebacker or a defensive lineman or even a defensive back, you're trying to get around a block and you're off balance already. Sometimes those head hits are inevitable.
Yeah.
And you can't just, even if you just sort of fold with it and let it run over you and pull them down. But see, you trying to maintain your position. When you break down, he's coming at you. Who gets the lowest and who pushes hardest?
Low man always wins. That's
Amen.
exactly right. That's the law of the pit. That's exactly right. And if you're doing your job and the back judge doesn't see the proper angle and that flag comes down while you're driving for that tying field goal or winning touchdown, that's 15-yard spot foul now. That's bullshit.
That's true.
Yeah.
Amen.
And see, when you have guys out there who are not like Mr. Sanders, who actually corners who are going to hit you.
Have to actually hit somebody.
It's inevitable. If you're 180, 90, even 200 pounds, and pick a running back, 225, 230, full head of steam coming up, coming up of the gut. You better go down. What you gonna do? You stand up there and let him put his head in your chest. You see at the professional level, especially when they wear those kindergarten pads they wear a lot of times.
That's right.
You know better to get hit like that because your chest gonna implode.
And guess what? And they're about to change that too.
That's right.
They're about to make requirements of hip pads and thigh pads and knee pads.
But it's the padding. The padding we can argue about because it's about preference or something like that sometimes and what you're comfortable with on the field. Here's what bothers me the most. You got guys like Marshall Faulk. Again, astute, knows the game A through Z. You got Matt Forte, another well-read and brother who not just plays well, he understands the game. He's a student of the game. Emmitt Smith, all time, number one. All saying that collectively, what you talking about, Willis? When Goodell comes out with this bullshit, and
Michael,
any future running back's gonna be saying, "What the fuck, G?"
What would the NFL do with Jim Brown? The way Jim Brown played, they after Brown.
But see, that's just it. They weren't after Jim Brown. They were after Colin Kaepernick. They were after Cam Newton. They were after all of the brothers that's coming because this is something they know they can't stop. That's why they want to keep calling it a fad. Now, when somebody like Ron Jaworski, who, to many extents, Patrick, Jaworski's my Calipari because I talk with Jaws a lot, and he does know his shit when it comes to quarterbacking and stuff like that. He sees the big picture. He understands this. And giving him credit, he's probably been more objective in assessing Michael Vick than anybody amongst these redneck assholes down here in Philly. So all of that said, he sees what's coming. He knows that this can work, and because he knows it can work, they really can't fight with his argument over it because he's considered mainstream. So their question's asking now, what is he seeing that we're not seeing? Maybe the fact that your racist asses aren't going to see it because you don't want to see it, but, never mind all that. Even if we go past that, we look at the success that Russell Wilson had, and he really wasn't running a sprint option. But we know he has the ability to do that. You see what Kaepernick did and the fact that they lost their minds because poor Alex Smith, he got bumped out of his job. And Cam Newton, even though they wanted to slam him, by the end of the season, he eventually won more games than he did in his first season. So all of this stuff's coming. And they know Manuel can ball. They know Geno Smith can ball. They know that when Bridgewater comes out of Louisville,
Lord have mercy, that boy can sell.
That's another spot. And again, the kid Keith Davis out of Washington, if he gets to the right team, he's going to take somebody's job. Pat Freeman, again, we have to give the mighty Oba his props because he said when he was up in Buffalo that Fitzpatrick's gone. And everybody up there said, "You out of your mind." Well, where's Fitzpatrick? He's backing up Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. This is the kind of
collecting
thing
the check.
Exactly, but this is the kind of thing that we're talking about here because it's not about just the black quarterback. It's about those who write about black quarterbacks and about black players, which is why Black Athlete in many ways exists, because you're getting a different perspective on this and not just the ones from these white guys sitting in the press boxes who have problems with the black man playing arguably the most important position on the field.
And unfortunately, Mike, I've been with the league like 15 years now, and doing Giants and Jets. I mean, they're guys who have agendas.
That's right.
Agendas that are really perspectives that are influenced by people that we don't see or don't know, and from certain aspects. Because if there's some things that you could see that works well and has impact on making the game better, and you still got problems with it, then what's the real deal? What's the problem?
That's right. That's exactly right.
And you're 100% correct. What's actually going on? And speaking of Jaworski, I call Jaworski as mainstream as you can get. My only issue with Jaworski, if he in a drop back quarterback, he got problems with him. But he had to realize this is something different, and that got to be dealt with. The other part of it is, I mean, the mad scientists of the NFL coaches are out, particularly up in Canada, because Canada has some defensive schemes that have best been effective against the read-option. They're up there they're up there now trying to find out what's going on to try to stop it, along with the other aspects that you talked about, Fisher and his rulings, and I'm quite sure there's going to be some other stuff that's going to come up.
They've even talked about expanding the American field, because, you know, in Canada, for those that don't know, Canadian ball, the field is expanded. It's actually 110 yards on the regular field and 25 yards in the respective end zones. The fields are 13 yards or roughly that wider, and if you're going to play quarterback there, you literally are sprint optioning, but you've got to have an arm. You've got to have a strong arm. When you're throwing an out pattern there, that ball's traveling 40 yards for a 5-yard gain. If you don't have some mustard on that bad boy, it's pick six in the other direction for real. But over the last 20 years, they've taken things from Canada. They've taken the 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. They've taken a lot of and the kickoff zones. All of these things have come from Canada. And they do this because they know the game there is predicated on speed. You know, even the linemen up in Canada can run. You know, they don't have the best technique in the world. You know, they're fast. So somebody who's 320 pounds, if he gets the right angle on you, he gonna pile drive your ass into the turf. It ain't gonna be none of this touchy touch stuff. So there's some jump to the Canadian game for real. I spent years watching it and covering it myself. But all of that, here's the ultimate irony of this. You say an agenda. We know Vince Young is a walking agenda. This is a young man that's won 60% of his games, and he can't get a sandwich in the NFL. And the sad irony of it is, he saved the job of the motherfucker, and you got to say it exactly like that. He saved the job of the Dick Dastardly motherfucker that blacklisted him in Jeff Fisher.
Let the church say amen on that one. I mean, again, the fact that he's not in the league astounds me on one end, but I understand from the other end because of the fact that, you know, they'll make every excuse not to have him. I mean, I heard what Knucklehead. I wanted to, you know, usually I let stuff roll in my back, but I seen Skip Bayless one day said something about the Vince Young, comparing him to your boy, Miss Captain America. I said the producer that came up with that idea needed to be fired immediately because obviously they don't know what the hell they're talking about, you know. So Vince should be in the league. There's no doubt.
Gary, I found out he had a tryout with Oakland. Apparently he didn't sign, otherwise somebody would have said something about it. But what does it say when you see a quarterback with a winning record? And I don't mean like a 500 record. I'm talking about clear. He's won 12 more games in spite of his coach than he's done as far as losing. You know, came in the league offensive MVP, 2-time All-Pro, and
Rookie of the Year.
And Rookie of the Year, and can't get no love.
Well, it's because he's a quote troublemaker. When you're a troublemaker, you can't go anywhere. And this is look, Vince Young to be done right now at any club in the NFL. But because of the attitude of these coaches, he will not get a chance. Right here in Oakland, California. He was here for 2 weeks. They said, bye-bye, we don't need you, bye-bye. I mean, it wasn't he got the skills. He can do the job. It's all about being a bad guy.
Exactly, and they got that,
and
you're stuck with that lame roach ass Carson Palmer out there.
Stealing money.
You know, we know there's animus for sure, and we know there are agendas. Something that just popped in my head that just ticked off in the back of it that I had to bring up. I think you may have remembered Lomas Brown when he talked about blocking for Scott Mitchell and his dead roach ass. You know, and how Mitchell wasn't shit essentially, and Lomas had to give an Olay block to let him know what time it was. And he said this in casual dialogue when he was on air. But of course, even the brothers got to realize when you say these things, they want inside stuff, but there's a price to pay. They made him apologize for saying that he allowed, the defender to come in and plant Scott Mitchell's no-playing ass like a turnip because he couldn't play. And it was ultimately because of the frustration, not said out loud, but the real deal was that they knew Barry Sanders was the best player, and they knew they needed help to keep Barry. Barry walked away because he said, "Y'all ain't beating my ass down to the white man."
Amen. That's why I walked away.
Yeah. And I can verify that because I interviewed Barry when I was out in Hawaii in '97 in the Pro Bowl. And when I brought that question up, he looked at me, he smiled, and he walked away. He wouldn't say more. And Barry was one of the brothers that did not smile. I can tell you that honestly. So I know it bothered him. And when they say on these shows about what he could have been and all that shit, Barry knows he should be the all-time rushing record leader right now. And he could have been that. And still would have walked away from the game intact like he does now. He wasn't going to put his ass on the line to maybe have a Darryl Stingley moment because his quarterback couldn't fucking ball. And I don't blame him one bit.
And the fact that, like you said, going back to Vince not being able to get on the squad, you mean to tell me they have 32 quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks or quarterbacks in the league better than him?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Be serious. Be serious.
That's the question. If you ask the question, name me 32 quarterbacks that Vince Young, can't nobody who's going to really answer if they understand ball going to answer that and say I can name them and run them down. They can't. They know what's going on.
But you have for every team, there are 3 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Every team. There are 32 teams.
96 jobs.
That's 96 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me only 12 in the league? Come on now. What's wrong with this picture?
No, we know what's wrong with this picture, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But sad to hear the person making who has really corrupted everything is the same one that made Air McNair a drop back quarterback in the Super Bowl with his teams behind, and then when he finally let him go, he got him to the 1 yard line, and then he tried to make an excuse for why he had such a strategy when all the defensive players, he was like, dog, he's dropping back. Our work is done.
Yeah, that brings up
I'm rolling out.
Fred, I know this is not the first time you brought this up, but you think about that. It really is about having the right situation. And he destroyed Steve McNair's career because he wanted him to do it a certain way. Now, you look at what Steve McNair did in spite of, and you look what Russell Wilson did in support of. And I think in this case, these two are synonymous, not because of them being black, but you look at what Russell Wilson was able to do in his rookie year. I mean, they gave him bits and pieces of the playbook to chew on. He digested it and ate it whole. And then as he got more and more of it, he was still able to kill him with his arm. He scrambled to find holes and lanes. He always looked downfield unless he decided he was going to have to take up and get out of there because he was some 350-pound guy stomping his ass in little quarterback meatballs. I can see a direct correlation between that being what Air McNair should have been right from the jump. And let's be real, just like McNabb and just like a lot of other black quarterbacks until Randall Cunningham had Chris Carter, Randy Moss, and that awesome cast of characters in Minnesota where they scored more points than anybody in the league until the cheap-ass Patriots showed up. He never had a bottom-line number one wide receiver in his whole career. Now, Derek Mason was decent, but he wasn't that get-you-over-the-hump caliber, clear everything downfield so that your tight ends and everybody else can do even more damage. It's no accident.
We'll take it further than that. He never had that great of a line to block for him.
Thank you.
And
That's right.
But the thing I'm looking at that's going to be in the favor of all these other guys is the young man who won the Heisman Trophy. He is not a drop-back quarterback.
That's right, man.
I know he's not a brother.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not totally, but
he got some jazz to him. I give him his credit.
He knew when to get to the he knew when to run off tackle.
That's right.
And when he ran off tackle, he ran with gusto. And that's the kind of thing that's going to help a lot because, you open yourself up to one set of injuries, but see, you get a couple of us guys who have this certain psychosis that play defense, and get a clean hit,
he might not get up.
That's right.
You know, I don't have to hit you in the head. I mean, you know, I remember one guy I hit. His thing was, well, why don't you get up? Well, he couldn't breathe, and you know, his arm was up, and I hit him in his ribs. And I've seen that happen several times. But you know, you would think that cooler heads would prevail, but you know, racism is what it is, and you got this mindset that permeates the NFL and college to a great degree about what good football is and what it isn't. Because personally, I initially didn't like the shotgun formations and all that kind of stuff, but finally they came around with some stuff that actually made it more practical.
Sure.
To include, you know, quarterback. You know, you can have a force spread and still have your quarterback run.
That's right.
Be a second running back, which creates the option. And I know Winston and several other schools I know they would bring a receiver across as an option person too. So
that's what Coach Cooley ran, and that's essentially what Mouse Davis ran when he came and brought Warren Moon down with that from Canada.
Yeah, and well, you know, Cooley set the coach for San Francisco up perfect. He will never get the credit he should.
Never did.
Cooley, you know, I mean, when they saw, they're sitting in the hotel watching the game and like, dog, this is how, you know, quote, yes, he ran some version of it with a spread, but, you know, with a two running back, you're not running with so much of a spread.
Right.
So you can't give him credit for it that way. But the quarterback at San Francisco, sitting in the hotel, I think it was Houston. I don't know, it was Alcorn and Prairie View, Alcorn in Texas Southern, but they were in Houston. And they saw the game with him playing on BET. And, you know, in spite of the fact they said that he had suspect speed, you know, he never was run down from behind except when the ball hung.
Yep.
And, you know, so look at all the stuff that these brothers are facing. You were talking about the greatest receiver of all times. He had suspect speed coming out of college.
Yes,
and the only one who saw the future in him was the one who traded up to get him.
Yep.
And you know, he was what 3 or 4 Super Bowls. One day,
that's right. Yeah,
he walked away. You know, and think about it. At the end of the day, when he was with Oakland, you know, even at 40 years old, he was not super great. He was just great.
And should have went to another Super Bowl then if it wasn't for the talk rule.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, fellas, I got to make one more call before I get out of here. It was great talking with you this evening.
As always, Patrick, before you leave, again, everybody always has a last lick, and if you have a shameless plug, please drop it on us before you go.
Well, I'm putting together a biggie show right now for the tournament. Doing some stuff with that now because there's about 8 teams in it, and hopefully they can show well. And look out for Louisville because Louisville did something last weekend at the Big East tournament that was really astounding. With 15:33 left in the second half, Syracuse is up 45-29. I was over there by a bunch of Syracuse guys who I know they were like getting ready for the party. And in about 8 minutes, they were 15 down.
Damn.
It was like led by those two guys, and keep your eyes on Smith and Siva.
Okay.
The masters of controlled chaos. If you don't have a guard that can get by those guys, they're going to strike you down. So I'm looking for them to do well in this tournament. So I'm doing some stuff on them right now.
All right, Patrick. As always, thank you for the light and the info, brother.
Good information, gentlemen. Always good. Always expand the mind and stuff I ain't got to explain because you don't know.
That's for real.
Good talking with you.
Thank you, brother. Patrick Farrar from JCE TV and Cowboy Reggie has snuck back from the ozone now, coming off riding the range and acting strange. So,
Crazy
Cowboy,
BMB,
I know you got an earful of this. I know you got an earful of this. Before we close and get to our final points here, since the ladies didn't chime in, I wanted to save this, but I wanted the male perspective on the madness that happened in Steubenville, Ohio, the rape case, the aftermath, and the fact that CNN was just deplorable in how they tried to alibi for these kids, knowing what was done to that young lady. And we know and we know for at least a modicum of bits that there was actual stuff that happened to her, because there were photos of her being carried off drunk, unconscious drunk, and we know things were done to her. So the fact that they got juvenile sentences, I think, frankly, they were very lucky. But first, Reggie, your feelings about the case and the result of it.
Well, first of all, if you know how the media, and again, I'm not condoning what these young men did, and I mean young men, but the media definitely focused up on the young black man when they had the camera. But still, my question is 2 points. Are you so damn stupid that you're going to videotape a crime that they can use against you in a court of law? This goes under stupid criminals. I mean, it's ridiculous. You're going to actually give the people the evidence against you. And apologize if I may, what really angers me about this, where were the parents? I mean, alcohol was involved. Where were the parents at this party? And the same thing happened at Virginia Tech under Marcus Vick, where underage people came in, young ladies came in, European women, and all of a sudden they got into the dorm of the college. And I'm saying again, where are the parents? So I'm really upset about the whole situation. And also, isn't it amazing how the trial was done on a Sunday? Now, was I looking after, wait a minute, when did the, judge and jury and everybody come in on a Sunday? Did I miss something?
That's an interesting point. I didn't get that enough consideration, but when you look at this, Fred, this is not the first time when, young folks and alcohol and whatever have got together and whatnot, and kids party and all of that. I ain't gonna lie, I was no angel. I mean, I didn't go to that far an extent because I was raised proper. But the bigger issue to me is, how could you do that to a girl, knowing the social media expands to the way it does now, and the hubris of these young men truly proved to be their undoing?
Well, the truly sad thing here is the rape, first of all, but then young people today are hooked on stupid.
Yep, I agree.
We had this thing where there were certain things that even if you didn't want certain people to know. Everybody now has a cell phone, which means they got a camera, which means they have a movie camera.
That's right.
/ video camera. And then, and because we have, young people got to start understanding. We got to tell our young men and young ladies, first of all, why is a 16-year-old in a party like that? True. Second, how is she in there getting drunk, which is underage in any state? Even hillbillies think that that's illegal. Yeah. And so, I don't get it. And this whole thing that, I don't get this whole mentality that I got to show everybody everything that I do.
Exactly.
I get it.
Hey, Gary, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And because of that, I don't know, the whole, trying them as juveniles, to me, is neither here nor there. They're just as guilty either way you look at it. Sentencing them as juveniles, and that, and then to hear people talking about, well, you messed up their football career. No, they messed up their football career.
Thank you. They messed up their football career.
And if I'm not mistaken, they only got 2 years.
And they got off light, but I know what that boy was crying because maybe his parents were the same kind of parents like we talked about earlier in the show, thinking he's going to get an NFL contract and all of that. He already knows he's got the mark on his ass now, and that stuff going to follow him like luggage. He can't get
sex offender.
What's that old song?
He's now a registered sex offender who's going to have to register if he goes to school anywhere. You know, and maybe he'll get to an HBCU where he can get a coach with some sense that can sit him down and talk to him and say, boy, come on, we can get over this. But he's going to have to register as a sex offender. Well, I don't know, because maybe he won't because he's underage.
There you go.
That's another thing to click in there. But beyond that, my fear would be, you know, I could see him crying if he was a young man in my family, is somewhere between the uncles and the aunts, he going to get a beat down.
You know that's right.
How big he is.
Everybody going to whip that ass. That's right.
He's going to talk to you, make you wish hey, you be looking for a suicidal experience because one thing
you don't wish you was dead. That's right. That's old school, Gary.
Big house games going around.
What's that, Gary? What's that old Teddy Pendergrass song? You can't hide from yourself. Everywhere you go, there you are. That's exactly what's going to happen to that brother.
This goes back to the beginning of time. Remember Aretha Franklin in 1962, 1963 songs? R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
For sure.
And see, what happened is our youth do not respect themselves or anybody else. So you can act like this until we step back and respect each other.
I'll tell you this. There's one thing I was glad about when I was a kid and didn't get noticed as much. You cannot be a man until you look at a woman the same way you would look at your mother,
thank you,
or your nana, or big mama, or auntie, or anybody else who's a woman of respect or elder woman amongst you. If you don't look at them the same way, that's the kind of nonsense you'll see. And we know in football, being the sport that it is, a certain mentality is in many cases rewarded. It's that mindset that allowed Steubenville to happen, and the stupidity that Fred talked about that made it fester to the point where lives are changed forever. And the reality is that issue's not done, because some of them other kids gonna get busted. This is just the surface, because there's a prosecutor now. There's a prosecutor who's gonna be looking for scalps. And when you think about the reality of what's gonna happen to these kids, it made me also think about Janarlo Wilson. And I know if you don't remember Janarlo Wilson, that was the young brother who played on his football team. He had a path set for him. There were schools looking at him to give him a full ride scholarship. And on a New Year's Eve party, and now Wilson was 17 at the time, he got a blowjob from a 15-year-old girl.
But the girl was right.
The sex was consensual. The parents confirmed it. The girl confirmed it. But it didn't matter, because the prosecutor, who wanted his little black ass, arrested him because it was non-procreative sex. So if he fucked her, nothing would have happened. Because he got oral sex from her, he went to jail. And this is in Georgia. Now, I ain't trying to be funny when I say this, but you can't have me think for 1 minute that eating pussy would be a crime in Georgia, but apparently it is. And this prosecutor,
it is, brother. Don't laugh. It is.
And there's got to be a lot of people doing crime as we speak. Then, but I digress.
If they get caught, that's their butt.
but not funny. Now, what's not funny here is that this black man went out of his way to continue to torture this kid for at least 2 years and keep him in jail, in spite of the fact that he knew the law was bogus. And even after the law was reversed, he didn't want to change Wilson's situation, and I'm going to have to find out what happened to this kid, because his career was ruined.
Didn't he go to Hampton?
I don't know if he went to Hampton or not.
I think he did.
If he did, I hope he turned out okay.
The young man from Alabama ended up at Morehouse.
Okay.
So I think he went to Hampton.
Yeah, he went to Hampton.
But you get my point.
Real sports.
It's like
Brian
this kid's life was ruined because of a zealous prosecutor, and it was consensual. Now, we're talking about that, where he gets 2 years for some bullshit, as opposed to these kids who vamped upon this young lady, and frankly, in my opinion, they should get a lot more time. I'd give them time for the rape and time for stupidity on top of it. So,
hey, Mike, here's a hot sidebar. I think the Dallas Cowboys drafted him.
Good Lord. Well, as I say, we're not finished with this, and I know Sonic, Cheryl, and Celestial and Bobby will have things to say about this as we go to later shows. But as of right now, it is time to get to our last licks. And as always, since you slid in here last again, because you're doing nasty things while we out there doing our show, you're first to come up, Cowboy. So give us the last licks and a shameless plug.
Well, again, thank you for coming on Social Radio. Like I said, guys, days were not a good day for me. Mike, I'll try to tell you about that later on, but it's been a crazy day. But when I need, in the words of Dr. King, to come and get revived, I come to Social Radio. And Dr. Fred Witt, I love you so much, man, because, again, of the excellence that you bring, not only in books, but the knowledge. And thank you so much for being there for us. Real quick, in Baltimore, I'm sure you heard about the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens fighting on the same day. Basically, Roger Goodell has come in and told the Baltimore Orioles that because if we had the first game of NFL Super Bowl champion, you guys need to change your schedule. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way, and I hope the Baltimore Orioles stand to their own. Matter of fact, they had some kind of Jewish holiday. They said we don't play on it. Well, guess what, NFL? You play on Christmas Eve, you play on Christmas Day, and also you play on the Jewish holiday, so that's a lie. Last year when the president gave his inaugural address, you changed the game from Thursday to Wednesday, so the game can be changed. So, Roger Goodell, you are a tyrant, and once again, you're trying to flex your evil muscles, in my opinion. Sports Talk, 1450 every Saturday from 12 to 1, and hopefully we'll have some parting shots on what's going on in high school football and also basketball when it comes to GPA going up to 2.7 in 2016.
All right. Cowboy, as always, thank you for riding the range, brother. Professor, you're up, brother.
Well, my parting shot is I hope that some good come out of the conversation. I hope there were people out there listening, especially the part about the young men and the young ladies.
Yes.
I mean, you got to take care of yourself, no matter what. You're athletes. You're in the spotlight already. You don't need to go out. And just so you know, almost every police force now has at least one or two or three or four people whose job it is to monitor the internet.
There you go.
Not only for sexual predators, but also for idiots who like to film their crimes and put them up on YouTube.
It is.
And that is actually admissible evidence in court. So, get a grip on it. The other thing I want to talk about briefly is, just getting us into the mode of taking Black History beyond Black History Month. We have a myriad of products on BlackHeritageReview.com. Everything from Black College Sports Encyclopedia, the Boot Camp Workbook, the Quiz Bowl Challenge package. We got to teach our kids and adults our history. We got to tell our own story. So just go to BlackHeritageReview.com. There's plenty there. You can choose as you please. Place your orders. And good evening.
All right, Professor. Thank you as always. That's BlackHeritageReview.com. You can check out the Facebook page. Check out the website. It's got good stuff there for mind, body, and soul. Mr. Biggs, time for you to roll in, brother. Thank you again for writing a great piece for Black Athlete. As always, love your work. Love you. Throw something in the pot.
Well, my brothers, I hope tomorrow night in North Carolina, a lady Byron manhandle the Duke Lady Blue Devils and rewrite Black history all over again. And my rant for the day, I really hope these women really take it to them because they deserve better than what they got.
Most definitely.
On Saturday, I will have against Rhonda Harper on the Gilbert Cove. 1 Pacific 4 Eastern Time. We're going to talk some disturbing news.
Yes.
And political gay rights advocacy politics on Saturday.
All right, brother. You know you got to love it. And thank you as always for your participation. But I'm going to close out, first of all, with a programming note. Obviously, G will be out with the Great Leopard Cove 4 p.m. Saturdays, 1 p.m. on the West Coast, right after we do our thing here at Soul Tree Radio on the Raw. But we will have a special Hooray Spring show just because this Sunday evening, 9 to 11. At the end of the month, we will have our normal Beggars Banquet, but at the end of the month, we will have our Beggars Banquet. But next Sunday, this Sunday the 24th, 9 p.m., we will have a Hooray Spring show and just play and chill like we need to sometimes. Also, on the 30th show, that Saturday, we're going to have a young man from Canada who does some original music and producing. His name is Kenan, and we're going to talk to him for a little bit. He's going to run down some tracks for us, give us some spring flavor to savor here. So we try to do a little bit of everything here on Soul Tree Radio and the Raw. Now, as far as closing out, from time to time we try to bring y'all up on some up-to-date stuff and try to keep you in the loop on this, but this is some nasty shit that I just broke out that I saw yesterday. And this is from item that was sent or I was able to procure from another brother who's passing on information. This has to do with a controversial Jewish circumcision ritual that's under fire after allegedly causing the deaths of 2 infants and exposing potentially thousands more to the risk of herpes infections. New York City health officials are pushing a proposed regulation that would require parents to sign a consent waiver before they would take part in a circumcision ritual called Metitzta Peh. And excuse me if I'm not saying that correctly, it's typically practiced by ultra-Orthodox Jews. Now, the ritual potentially poses a fatal risk to newborns because what they're doing is in the circumcision act, they're taking off the foreskin or whatever, and in certain cases, they're literally sucking the blood from the penis that's just been, enacted on. Now, I ain't wanted to deal with one's culture and say, do what you do and whatnot, but there's something about this, especially after everything that we've heard about the sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, things we found out about sex against young people. There's just something very disturbing about this. And it goes back to something I said a couple of weeks ago about the church, likely over in Eastern Europe, where there was a statue of a young kid, going down on this official, whether it's a pope or a cardinal or pastor, whatever it is. There's a mindset here that is just ingrained as being straight up sick. And people aren't talking about it. I don't know why they're not talking about it, but when you see it, you call it what it is. We're going to keep a track on this, but it's flat out disturbing. And this is not the last that you'll hear stuff like this, because we're going to report on things like this. And, well, like I said, we'll pass the information along. You all do with it what you will. For myself, for Cowboy Reggie, for Patrick Farrar from JCE TV, thank you so much for your input tonight. For Professor Fred, for Gary Norris Gray, we'll see you Saturday with our normal show and Sunday with our Hooray Spring Music Show. No politics, just playing some music and chilling. Soul Tree Radio on the Raw. We're out.